some of them did want to find this man and key his car, roll up at the crib. I mean, the things they wanted to do, I get it, because they care about me. But they were able to handle themselves accordingly and just show it for me in the best way that they could, which did look different for everybody. But that community that I had around me and decided to handpick, they made me feel safe. This is a great direction to go. One of my very best friends, she probably was, I guess maybe after she was before my therapist when I decided I was going to get a divorce or at least become separated. She was the first person that knew. And I remember calling her and she said, whatever you decide, I support it. Now, while she was the first best friend to know, months later, I'm like in the thick of this separation. She said to me, I will be able to support you, but it's going to have to be from afar, because at this point I find myself on my own spiritual journey and I don't want anything that I'm thinking or feeling to affect your decision making while you're in the thick of a big moment in your life. I ain't gonna lie, y'all. Now, when she's watching this, I know she's watching this. I know for a fact she's watching this. And she's going to laugh because she knows who she is. And we have since talked about it and gotten past that. But she and I have never had any type of, ruffling of the feathers, you could say, in our relationship. So when I first saw it, because she sent a very long text, and I was already triggered by that as a whole because of the situation I was in, because he loved to do that. But she sent me a very long text, and I just remember seeing that text and I got that feeling in my stomach like, oh no, it's a problem. And reading truly is fundamental, you guys. But I read that text and initially I was just like, oh my God, we're not gonna be friends anymore. Like, I just thought the worst was happening. So I said, let me close this. Let me sleep on this. And then when I wake up in the morning, I'm gonna read this again. When I read it again the next morning, I said, wow, first of all, her tone was not at all what I made it out to be the night before. That's the first thing. But the second thing was, I said, wow, she's really good at setting boundaries and sticking to them. And I probably should take note of this whole thing, And from there, I'm trying to think. At that point, I probably was maybe, March, April. So maybe like 6 to 7 months into the separation. So I felt like, you know what? Cool. Let's give it some space. I knew what that meant. It meant that I can talk to her about this if I want to. But if you're not looking for advice, or if you're not looking for an actual, like a thorough response, don't come here. You know what I'm saying? Or, well, actually go there if you don't want a thorough response. If you're looking for that, go to someone else. So I was like, I'm gonna have to give space to this. But what I realized is the relationship didn't change at all. We just stopped talking about my separation because, again, she felt like I cannot support you the way you need right now with this. And I respected it. And months later, I remember I went to her and I said, well, this is the decision I've made. I'm getting a divorce and this is when I can file all the things. And from there, y'all, we went back to just talking all the time, not every day, but definitely every other day, and just getting back to what I knew to be the relationship we had. But I knew she needed that time and space because she didn't want to influence me. And let me tell y'all need friends like that. I'm gonna look at both cameras. Y'all need friends like that because I don't think they're making them like that no more. I don't know. But it showed me, one, have some boundaries for yourself also, but stick to them. I'm gonna mess this quote up, I'm sure. But I did read this somewhere not too long ago, and it said, a boundary without consequences is merely a suggestion. I didn't mess it up, y'all. But that's the truth. That's the truth. If you don't have consequences that follow people crossing these boundaries, it's only a suggestion, because what are you doing if they do cross them, And so shout out to my bestie. I'm not going to say her name, but all the besties know who this bestie is. So love her to death for that. Okay. So here's the lesson in all of this. Boundaries are important. And I think we all have had a time in our life, even if it's not right now, at some point we either have or we will struggle with maintaining our boundaries. So with my best friend that, had to kind of give it some space in that moment, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, is our friendship going down? Like, what's going on? But to give context, this friend is a wife. She is a mom. Now, I'm a very reasonable individual, and I understood. I'm like, she has her own life, her own family, So I can't even expect her to show up the way I would want, and that's fine. I just appreciated her insight. But when she needed to take a step back, I respected it so much because I did know, I'm like, this will strengthen the friendship because there's a mutual respect here. But that allowed me to build my community and allow other friends to show up for me in that season. Friends that either are in dating relationships or are single, no kids, you know what I'm saying? So they had more room to say, well, and I had a best friend do this. She knew what was going on. She pulled up on me and had a spend the night bag. She pulled up with gifts, wine, snacks, cards, sticky notes with affirmations. Love her to death, y'all. She's actually my director and producer. So shout out to Tay. But she pulled up on me and she was able to do that. So when you have friends setting boundaries, especially in seasons of your life where you feel like everybody should just show up for you, understand that everybody has their own stuff going on. Everybody has things going on that sometimes they're not even sharing with you. So everybody has things going on in their life. Sometimes they're not telling us about it, and that's fine. They don't have to. But if your friends in a season where you feel like, wow, I really need support, and they say, hey, I have to take a step back, find somebody else in your community that could be there for you. I promise you they will gladly show up. But also remember, who could realistically show up for me in a time like this? It might not, especially in a separation, divorce situation, it might not be the married friend. Because here's the thing. Your married friend, especially in a healthy relationship, they may not want to hear what you got going on. And that's fine. I get it. They might want to hear it and they might want to offer advice. But if they know you're in the space of not working things out with your partner, the married friend might not be the best one. They might be able to support you, but understand they just can't relate to what you're going through. So that might not be the friend to go to. Now with that, the single friend might not be the one to go to either, because you got to know your friends. If you got that single friend that is like really off their rocker, who is going to be like, let's knock this out, probably don't go to that friend. Make sure your friends, and whoever, it could be your sister, your cousin, it could be a family member, but make sure the people that you are including in that community or in your community at that time, make sure they are coming from a very balanced mindset where they're not going to just swing left or right, because the goal is not even to really take a side. Obviously, if they're in your community, they will be on your side, but like, make sure these people just have your best interest and make sure that they want you to be okay. That should be that. Whatever you choose to share with them, that's on you. But what I have found to be helpful in my community, I mean, if I had to give a rating, it would be a A++++. They never, of course, what they internally and deep down really wanted to do about the situation. But when it really came down to the conversations we were having, never did they bash this individual. They just supported me. They did a health check, a mental check. Like, where you at physically? Where you at spiritually, mentally, emotionally, all the things. And all I can genuinely say, every single person I talked to about this, they always, like, the basis of the conversation was, how are you doing? Now, they had their side comments, as we all do, we're humans, but the support was just unmatched. So tying up the whole boundary thing, be mindful if in a season of, I don't want to say distress, but that's what it was. But in that type of season, everybody's not gonna be able to show up for you the same way, which is why it is important to have that community, because also you don't want to potentially build up that resentment of, oh shoot, I was relying too much on this individual. But then you never know what season of life you'll be in later and what season of life they may be in. What if they try to come to you because they got their own stuff going on and now you can't even show up for them? Let's spread it out. I think I had a starting 5. Let's see. I had my therapist, my 2 best friends, my sister. I'll say my parents, I'm going to put them as a unit because I did more talking to my mom than my dad. And I think that was very healthy. Because if you have a dad in your life that you're close to, you know that was the right decision to talk to mom and not dad. So that was my starting 5. That was literally the 5 individuals or 5, 6 individuals that I said, okay, I felt like I had to build a team up. And the day that I made the decision to become separated, I moved out of our residence a week later. But by the time I moved out, those people that I just told y'all about, they all knew what was going on. So I think that's important. And they all had their different, they set boundaries in different ways. Even my sister. She gonna be on season 2, y'all. But let me tell you this real quick. We won't go too in depth. My sister had her own stuff going on in the midst of my stuff. Now, what's kind of ironic about it is we didn't know what the other one was experiencing. And my sister and I are very close, but we didn't have a clue that our sibling was going through something. And I mean, almost down to the same month of just like stuff happening where it's like, and we were talking. I had visited her. I literally was going up to New York to see her. I mean, we didn't have a clue the other one was just going through it. And, but God works. He works truly in mysterious ways, because in the midst of us both going through our own situations, we did have a moment where we had to set some real boundaries as sisters, almost to where initially I didn't go about it the right way, because I just decided to stop talking to her about what I was dealing with once we both uncovered what was going on. I decided I don't want to talk to her about it. Now, I've since apologized. We've, made up and everything. But in the moment I realized, I'm like, I can't talk to my sister because as a sibling, she's probably, other than my parents, the most protective person when it comes to me. So the way she responded to my situation, it just was not helpful for the space I was in. I was deep in depression, like can't get out of bed type, deep in it. But hearing somebody say things and it's just their opinion and how they feel, it just was not helpful to that. So I remember instead of telling her that, I just stopped talking to my sister, to the point where she was sending me texts, y'all, and was like, wow, we haven't talked in a week. That's not like us. And I'm over here like, phone down, like, child, please, I'm not talking to you. So it wasn't until I actually saw her. I remember I went to New York and we were walking. We were like walking down the street in Brooklyn. Y'all saw that Hove exhibit. That's where we were coming from. So it was a nice day. It was fun. But as we're walking, she just couldn't let it go. She was like, I feel like you're so distant lately. And I remember looking at her, had shades on. It was a sunny day. I just was like, I'd rather not talk about this right now. It's a great day. We in New York, we with family. But I knew if I did not address that in person, it was just going to keep building up. So I finally told her, I'm like, look, I say this with love, but the comments that you make and you dumping your opinion on me as it pertains to my separation, it's not helpful to me. In fact, it's more harmful because now I already have my own thoughts. And I was at a time, like in a space where I was willing to let the intrusive thoughts win. I'll say that. Take that however you want. But I was willing to let those intrusive thoughts win. So hearing other people say negative things, I'm like, dude, this is not going to help me. In fact, you're fueling, the intrusive thoughts. So I told her that. I said, now I would love to talk to you about what I have going on because you're my sister. And out of everybody in the world, I trust you almost the most. But if this is how the dialogue is going to be every time, I just won't be talking to you about this. And so thank God we had both at that point been in therapy for years. So she was like, okay, we're getting somewhere now. And she asked me a question. She goes, when I check on you regarding your separation, would you like me to ask how you're doing or what stage things are in? Like, what is it that you want me to ask you that will not trigger you, but also will allow you to feel like this is a safe space and you can actually truthfully answer the question? And I just told her, I said, if you want to check on me, ask me how I'm doing. Check on my mental well-being. Let's not talk about this man, though. We don't have to talk about him. And at the time, y'all, I told her, I said, he and I are still in communication. Like, the separation was still fresh. I didn't just not talk to the man. Even in a space where I didn't want to deal with him, it just didn't feel natural to not talk to him. And again, in later episodes, y'all will find out why I was heavily in communication with him. But, you know, because he was not out of sight, out of mind, I'm like, it's just better if we just don't talk about him, because I'm not speaking negatively about him. And truth be told, my community could tell you, I've not said anything negative about this man. Now I've said something how he made me feel, but I didn't speak negatively on him, especially in the midst of everything. Because I just felt like, one, it's not going to change anything. And also, because he mistreated me, I don't think that means he's just this terrible individual. He just mistreated me. So having that conversation with my sister, when I tell y'all that one conversation changed everything. We started talking regularly again. She knew, again, it's a boundary thing. She knew what to ask and what not to ask. So coming out of that, we got even closer. I didn't think, when you grow up in a house with somebody, I'm like, how much closer can we get? But we got so much closer, all because of the one conversation where, truthfully, both of us had boundaries to set. Now, it was more so me setting mine with her, but I knew for her, she still was like, okay, I'm gonna have to kind of adjust mine, because she thought, because you're my sister, I could say whatever, I could do whatever, we could talk about whatever. Not in that season, we could not. So now, you know, fast forward, I am legally divorced. We can talk about anything because, one, I'm not triggered and I'm not in that depressive state where it's just like, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to handle and regulate my emotions right now. So I don't really need outside influence. Now I'm like, if she want to say something in hindsight and talk about that, man, I really don't care. I might agree with it. But at that time, the boundaries had to be set with my own sister, who's literally my best friend. So, you know, again, mindfulness. Let's be mindful of those who, you know, we might expect to be able to show up for us. Because just how my best friend had to set her boundary and I was shocked, I didn't think I'd have to set one with my sister. I literally talked to her about everything. But again, in a season that's unexpected, sometimes you just have to set that boundary with that one person you thought you could say anything to. And I don't think it's anything wrong. I think if people can respect each other's boundaries on the back end, you actually probably might be closer than you were before. But if you don't address them, and if y'all don't respect the boundaries, it may be the opposite. You might end up not being as close. So, you know, I think it's just important to be mindful of that. And boundaries, I think, has a negative connotation because it usually makes somebody uncomfortable. Quiet as it's kept, it probably makes both people a little uncomfortable, because to address the boundaries, you don't know how the other person may respond. And that's okay. If they care about you enough, they'll respect it. And then you can breathe and be like, okay, they respect the boundary. And then they'll realize on the back end, again, it will be better for everybody involved. But it's usually when you don't talk about these things, something inside starts to build up. And now it's like, how do we get here? A lack of boundaries. So I just want to talk about boundaries for a second, because while I didn't expect to go in that direction, it's something that is going to happen when you're in a season, specifically going through separation and divorce. I mean, you're going to be creating these boundaries left and right. Now, who they're for, that might vary, but the boundaries have to be in place. And it's not easy. This is something I had to talk to my therapist about, because I would never consider myself to be Little Miss Perfect and just got it all together. You know, sometimes in life you do feel like you got stuff together, but when you are faced with something you didn't expect to experience, you start to realize, like, I don't have a handle on this. So I had to humble myself, go to my therapist and say, first of all, I don't even know if I set boundaries with anybody. I mean, I don't know. Maybe in some situations, I know for sure at work, I'm gonna set some boundaries in the workplace. But like in my personal relationships, I realized in a season that was just it left me feeling very vulnerable and exposed. I'm like, I don't think I know how to set proper boundaries in my relationships. All of them, romantic and platonic. And that's when I said, okay, this is deeper than I'm, going through a divorce. Let's do some self-work here, because could it have been avoided? Maybe. I'm gonna just go with that. But, again, none of this is shameful territory. Boundaries are necessary to have successful relationships. And that's not a scientific thing. It's not that hard. It's true. I'm sure if there's anybody watching this who really knows about boundaries, I'm sure a few of my therapist friends will be watching this. I know they would agree with this. I know it for a fact because we talk about boundaries. So just something to keep in mind. If you didn't leave if you don't leave this episode with anything, I hope you will look more into your lifestyle, the relationships you have, the boundaries or lack thereof, because I'm telling you, it'll be life-changing. And sometimes you set a boundary and the person just goes the other way because they don't want to respect it. Good. They want it to be around. Because somebody that can't respect your boundaries should not even be in your life. They don't deserve to be there. Because boundaries are about protecting ourselves. Y'all know y'all put the little playpen and the little gates at the stairs for your children and your dogs. Why? Because you don't want them going up so they cannot fall down. So boundaries are there to protect us. So if people hear your boundaries and then they be like, and they go the other way, bye. Somebody else will come along. Who cares? I'm not even gonna go that route because I was gonna get real. We're not gonna do that on this platform. Just make sure you set boundaries with the people you love. And if they love you back, they will respect it. Thank y'all so much for watching this episode. If you have made it to this point, you might be rocking with me, and I appreciate it so much. While I'm so excited, I'm trying to remember all the things, I'm gonna be honest, because I told you in the beginning, I'm new to this. But please like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I wish I could make this up. And you can do the handle, I wish I could pod, for YouTube as well. So it will come up either way, but I would appreciate it if y'all tune in every Monday at 1 p.m. It would mean everything to me because somebody's gonna relate to this. Again, if it's not you, share it with somebody. But either way, you can find me on TikTok. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, I Wish I Could Pod. And we will post updates, teasers for our upcoming episodes. As the girlies say, all the things. So definitely tune in every Monday. I'm just excited to be on this journey. So please, I hope to see you again next Monday because we're going to keep rolling out.